Okay, so now let's understand the basic difference between few terminologies in the FDA, US FDA, and Europe regulatory pathway. So first, for US FDA, the clinical study application, we call it as IND, which is investigational new drug application. So whenever there is a new clinical trial getting started in humans, the sponsors files for IND, right? So if this is the first indication, right, we call it NDA or BLA. NDA is new drug application, BLA is biological license application. So NDA is for small molecules and BLA is for biologics, right? So now different committees like CDR is there, CBR is there. So these committees basically look at the types of the molecules. However, in the Europe we don't call it NDA or BLA, we call it MAA, which is marketing authorization application, the first indication. So this marketing authorization application, this is valid for both small molecules and biologics. However, in FDA and US case, it is NDA is for small molecules and BLA is for biologics, but MA is for both small molecules as well as biologics. So now if there is an indication expansion, you must have heard about supplemental new drug application or supplemental biological application, right? But in so these are uh, what are supplement SND and SBLA. So these are for changes to existing applications, right? So there is already an existing application and there are few changes like indication expansion is there or label expansion is there. So this generally happens after the first approval of the drug, this indication expansion. So in FDA we call it as SND or SBLA in the US, but in the EMA we don't refer it as the same, we refer it as type 2 variation application. Okay, so the type 2 variation application, so this is equivalent to FDA's supplemental new drug application and supplemental biological application. Now for accelerated assessment, right? So what is accelerated assessment? So this is just nothing but FDA's objective to take action within 6 months, right, regarding the application. So accelerated assessment, we refer it as priority review here, but here in the EMA scenario we don't refer it as priority review, we call it as accelerated assessment only. Okay, so this why accelerated assessment is important, because accelerated assessment basically reduces the time frame to review what MA is being reviewed, right? So this basically reduces the time frame to review MA. So this is generally applied to products which are of major interest to the public health, right? Like COVID is there, right? So any therapeutic innovation is there. So now after the accelerated assessment we have designations that are granting accelerated assessment, right? In FDA we have breakthrough designation, we have fast track designation, then we have RMAT, that is regenerative medicines advancement therapy designation. Then we have RPD, which is rare pediatric disease. If you will just simply google these, you can get a full form of that. uh, so these are designations for which FDA is giving, but in EMA we simply denote it as prime. So prime is just equivalent to FDA's BTD. Okay, so these uh, designations in the case of FDA, the status that makes a pharmaceutical company eligible for incentives to support drug approval. And RPD, which is a rare pediatric disease designation, may grant the sponsor. Actually, it happens is that RPT grants the sponsor, the manufacturer, a voucher, a priority review voucher. So now the other designation is like ODD is orphan drug designation. In FDA we call it as orphan drug designation, and EU also we refer it to as ODD only. Then conditional approval mechanism. So in the case of FDA, we have accelerated approval, which is AA, and another one is emergency use authorization. EUA, right? So AA basically accelerated approval. So the difference between these is, so AA basically A may not need basically full efficacy endpoints, right? But only biomarkers complete response. Therefore, it could reach the market sooner. However, EUA, if I talk about, so drugs with EUA, that is emergency use authorization, could be approved even faster, given their status. However, in the case of EU, we don't refer it as AA or EUA. We refer it as conditional marketing authorization, and CMA. Okay, so why I just compiled these here, because while writing alerts in CI, so this is very important part to write implications. What will be the implication of the if you, let's say, you are writing a high priority alert, and of course along with key takeaways you are writing implications. What would be the implication of that? Phase 3 trial results out, let's say there is a phase 3 trials results are out, what would be the key takeaways and what would be the implications to the client as well as to the market? So to write proper implications, you need to understand when this drug will be getting launched, right, in the FDA and EMA, right? So in my last CI video, I gave a general pathway for a drug which is in phase 2, how to calculate the how launch date of drug which is in the phase 2. Now similarly, let's say there is a phase 3 result out for FDA, right? Or PCD is there, PCD is completed, or a pivotal trial. For a pivotal trial, PCD is done. So first step they do is, after PCD, you can take a PCD from, that is primary completion date, from clinical trials .gov, and the first step they do is application preparation. So this is okay, so for FDA and EMA the scenarios are different. Okay, so in this video I will be talking about FDA in the next video, because EMA is in detail. We will need to study EMA in detail to understand the launch assessment scenario. But here it's much simpler, I would say. For um, FDA, first step is like application preparation. So once the pivotal trials uh, results are out, you take the PCD, and PCD is met. And then what happens is, sponsors basically start preparing application doses here. Prepare application dose here. So after the application preparation, the next step is application filing. So in the case of the application filing, what happens is FDA sends the drug to the CDR depending upon the type of the drug, whether it is a small molecule or a biologic. Right, if it is a small molecule, CDR will review. If it's a biologic, CBR will review. So FDA sends the application to the CDR, and at this is a very important question from the interview standpoint, because interviews often ask, like, at what stage of the at what stage the sponsors can request priority review. So you can say at the application filing stage, the sponsors can request the priority review. So after the application filing stage, there is application acceptance time frame, which is 30 days for NDA or BLA, and for supplemental new drug application and SBLA, supplemental biological application, it is 30 day, sorry, it's cut to half. Yeah, it's other way around. Okay, it's 60 days for NDA and 30 days for SNDA and SBLA. Then fourth step after application is being accepted is application review. So this is the most important step because at this step there is a PDUFA clock timeline, you know. So which is like PDFA clock timeline is nothing like from acceptance to approval there is a timeline clock. For example, uh, it's like okay, from acceptance to approval. Okay, for example, for if it's a standard review, if it's a standard review process, and it will be around 10 months. But if it is a what's a priority review, it will be around 6 months. Similarly, if you want more segmentation like for NDA or BLA, I can further classify it to for NDA. For the standard review it will be 12 months, however for the priority review it will be 8 months. Similarly for supplemental new application, new drug application, it will be 10 months, and for priority review it will be 6 months, right? So this is the general timeline. So after PCD is done, right, results are out, top line data is there, right? It take 12 months, you must have heard, after phase 3's trials results are out. It takes around 12 months for the drug in the case of FDA to get approval, but actually they go through four steps, right? So you can analyze at what step your assets application is in, right? And similarly you can give launch date estimation for your client. So this is the again general step. It will depend upon other parameters as well, but for EMA this step varies. It will be a long step, I would say.